What's up, you guys? It's indie scientist, alternative music, abstract painter, art entrepreneur Kenyo here, and watching some GaryVee, his latest video. The internet changed, and most people missed it. He's getting into some great stuff. This is part 2, so if you missed part 1, go back and watch it. Make sure you like and subscribe on the way. Let's dive into it.
The key, though, is most organizations, because we come from a television history, and honestly every other medium, outdoor, direct mail, we come from a place where we think in working media terms along with the creative. I would argue that for the last 70, 80 years in marketing, that working media dollars have been used to hide bad creative.
Working media dollars, that's like advertising, commercials.
And I believe we are going into the era, we are in it now, and I'd like to get you fully in it as quickly as possible because it will be good for your business, of the era where working media will be used to amplify good creative. Good creative is no longer going to be judged by the most...
That's a little hyperbolic. I don't think it was necessarily bad creative. It was just expensively good creative, right? So, because they were paying the best artists who had performed the best. They even had competitions. You watch Mad Men, competitions where advertisers would, but it's like a whole big system of billions of dollars and all these people's time just to make one good commercial a year. So it was just way too expensive, because these days you gotta make a good commercial every day.
Senior people in this room, by a fake focus group, by some bullcrap technology that measures creative. It is being decided by the views achieved when you post it in social. Here's why. Somewhere about 4 to 5 years ago, we left social media. I would argue that social media itself is dead as we all grew up and knew it. I believe we are now in interest media. As all of you know, when you open your app of choice in this room and you go on social, you are now currently seeing content that is relevant to you of what you're into right now, right? You're no longer getting your weird cousin's post, not your friend from high school, not somebody or account that you used to be into. You're getting content that is mapping to what you're currently paying attention to, right? I know you all have political points of view on all of this. I'm gonna put that on the shelf for a second. This is very important. Here's why. That algorithm, from LinkedIn to Snapchat Spotlight, to Twitter X, to Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube Shorts, all of them over the last 4 years, those algos have been written more and more and more towards relevance. If you're a marketer in here, and many things have changed, but what has not changed is that relevance leads to consideration, leads to purchase. For the first time in the history of marketing, the platforms that we are marketing on are aligned in our interest. In 1992, if Microsoft made a bad television commercial, creative-wise, CBS and ABC and ESPN could give a crap. So would the Wall Street Journal, so would Bloomberg Magazine, so would Westwood One Radio, so is the United States Postal Service. They could care less what the creative was. They wanted your money. The platforms that we love to razz, because in society we've gotten very good at blaming everybody but ourselves, those platforms for us in business are actually fully aligned with our business objectives. LinkedIn, Twitter, Substack want to keep all of us on their platform for as long as humanly possible. They are writing to keep us on. They will show people more and more, and this will continue over the next 3-4 years, more and more. They will show you what you want to see with the hopes that you stay on. When we make creative that is relevant to that developer, that CIO, the CTO, procurement, CFO, CEO, when we make content creative that is actually relevant and conducive to the platform we're creating on, contextually in format, and maybe even in texture of culture, that creative has a high propensity to reach that audience. For the first time ever in marketing, creative is creative.
For those who don't know, I mean, he's just saying that, I don't know, that if you post about what people want to see, then they'll see it, which is kind of true. Also, though, I think if you post about what people have been seeing, then they'll see it. Because it's not that the apps really show you what you're into, because there's a lot of stuff that I'm into that I don't see on social media unless I go search for it explicitly. Usually what social media will show me is the stuff that I've been watching or the trends that are active that I've been paying the most attention to, which, while happening at a much faster rate, I don't think is entirely happening for the first time, right? You know, it's like a commercial might have done like a deep cut to like The Sound of Music or something else, or used an actress that you knew, you know? So it's like they were doing the same thing back then. It was just at a much, 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 much broader, slower pace.
Creating the reach. This is incredibly important and has never existed before. The first time I saw it actually was in 2010. I was an early investor in Tumblr. You guys remember Tumblr? In fact, if I was making videos back then,
I was big on Tumblr, honestly. I want to be honest. That was the first time I went viral. I've gone viral a few times in my life on different ways, you know. Once through blogging, which was Google stumble upon. Tumblr, I got, I wasn't really viral. I was like, that's what I really liked about Tumblr. It had like a much more organic, stable version of going viral. I would write poems on Tumblr. And, you know, I would go, obviously, like the other people who were doing well. And I just got into a rhythm where a lot of people would be reposting and liking my poems. Although at that time, I'll say I handled it spectacularly badly, in that I just kind of went to my head in a weird way, and I just ended up deleting the Tumblr. I thought it was negatively affecting my poetry, but I was just being an angsty young man. But Tumblr was awesome. Had to say that.
then it'd be one of my worst videos. I called my brother after I invested in it. I said, bro, I just invested in a company that's going to be bigger than Facebook and Twitter combined. And the reason I was so excited about Tumblr was it was the first time I saw a platform that was based on interest, not on social. And I was in a really funny age when the social media exploded. I was in my early 30s. I had already just lived through the high school college transition where you knew by your late 20s, 30s, your social graph was changing. And so the theory of followers, and I just also, you know, back to my backstory, I grew up on email marketing. So social made sense to me very quickly because it was a different version of email marketing. How many people here have done email marketing in their career? Raise your hands. Just raise it high, just want to see. There's some youngsters in here. Let me watch this. In 1997, I had 100,000 people on a wine email newsletter and had 92% open rates.
Just in case you don't know why people are oohing and ahhing to that, open rates right now, depending on, you know, how warm, how familiar your list is, your email, your newsletter list is with you specifically, can be as low as like 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%, but 5% is pretty good. Is a pretty good lane to land at. So to be getting 92% open rate, that's just because people were probably only getting like 3 emails a day and they were treating them like letters before junk mail.
I bring that up because I'm going to tie that together. It wasn't because I was a genius. It was, how many people over 48 in this room? Raise your hands. Friends, can you tell the neighbor next to you, us 48 and older, back in the late 90s, we read every single email word for word. We still thought it was the post office. Us marketers hadn't ruined email yet. It's what we do. We ruin everything. I'm proud of it. So The reason I bring that up is I was affected. I built my dad's liquor store with no money in 5 minutes from 3 to 65 million in revenue on email and Google AdWords. The day Google AdWords came out, I bought every wine term you could ever imagine, including the word wine, all the way down to Leonetti Cabernet 1997 at the time for 5 cents a click. There is always an underpriced arbitrage in marketing. Procter & Gamble today in 2026 is still one of, if not the biggest consumer packaged goods company, and they outspent everyone in the early 60s on television, when television was underpriced and the OGs still believed in radio and print. Amazon, your neighbor, was the leading advertiser on Google AdWords in the first 5 years by 5x. Number 2 was eBay. They're still here today. There's always an underpriced marketing behavior, especially when big corporations spend all their money on yesterday's reports. Today's disproportionate opportunity and underpriced marketing behavior, the ones that build consumer brands like Liquid Death and Poppy and all the things you know, is happening in organic, social first.
Shout out to GaryVee, because business is probably, in my opinion, actually the most difficult thing you can do. I really think so. But he's consistently dropped business knowledge, and you would think that would be a simple thing to do, but I look around. Everyone else that I've seen, maybe if you see someone, send them to me, and maybe I'll check it out. Everyone else that I've seen is watering it down in one or two ways. But he's consistently kept and released his finger on the pulse of the moment for over a decade.
As the starting point to the marketing mix, the starting point. Any business unit, if I sat down with you right now, tell me what you're trying to accomplish, create 20 to 30 consumer segmentations based on that, gender, race, income level. I'm talking about the B2B people, who they are as humans. Interests, create those segmentations, and literally go directly into creative production and start making pictures, videos, written word to try to win on relevance with them. Post it across the 7 to 10 platforms for consumer, Xbox, others, B2B, 3, 4, 5, a little different, but you can still play a little bit. And then watch if the creative was actually relevant on quant and qual to who you're trying to reach. And
Quantity and quality.
then, when there's been true validation of creative, the creative has earned the right to get working media dollars. This is the underpriced behavior of today. This is called common sense if you have a half a brain. This is what 0 corporations in the Fortune 500 set are doing today. And so that is the opportunity. That's what excites me at the end of the day. Now, there's levels to the game. For example, one thing that really excites me, which is on the complete opposite side of modern AI technology, all the way over here, is analog experiential marketing. Now, let me tell you why. I am obsessed with this company's ability to scale, but tweak strategically its experiential marketing. Experiential is interesting to me because I no longer view any experiential event, a B2B conference like CES, all the way to sponsoring a Seahawks thing that you do outside. None of them, to me, is now an experiential event. It is a production day for social creative. That happens to be an experiential event. When we do it at our agency and we take it over from an experiential agency, even the creative of the event is with the thought of what it's going to look like in social. How do we make it dynamic? Let's build a...
Kind of funny because he's like talking about it in like the most old maniest ways possible. But he's just been around for so long. But yeah, I mean, it's absolutely common sense. You know what I mean? Like social media is a long documentary, and what else is a documentary? Sports are a documentary. Reality TV is a documentary. Podcasts are a documentary. So, and I really think like that. Every production, what he's talking about, production day, it's like, imagine if Marvel, there's reasons why they don't do it, but imagine if they, from the beginning of writing the first script adapted from a comic book, posted on about that every day, every 10 minutes, they were dropping a new post. They would have roughly what, a million times the amount of content that they get versus the one video, and guaranteed they would have more than a million times the amount of views on that project. Now they're making a product, right? And so they want to focus on selling that product, and that's why they're afraid to double dip. But I think they would probably make more, but it would be hard to think like that. And so, but then the movie itself, think about that, the production, you have all these cameras on site, that could make a trillion times the actual production days where people are meeting up, and you have Robert Downey Jr. flying in, this other person flying in, then you have, cast and the people looking in, watching the movie being filmed. That day could produce like a trillion times as much content as they're currently getting. It's really interesting. So it's like any event that you do, you can look at that as, he's probably going to explain it really well, so I'm excited for it. I'll stop talking.
10-story Xbox, because that will be insane. Obviously, we could do that in AI for like $1, but we'll talk about that later. And then how do we treat that day? You're doing this, I heard over dinner, you're doing this AI tour around the world. Every minute should be filmed. Everything should be post-produced. Now, the key is post-producing that content, whether it's experiential or it's us working together on net new assets, putting executives out in front, which we need to get into on X or on podcasts. The key to the game today, the ultimate skill in the modern underpriced marketing game, is what is called a vetitor, a views editor. This is a human that has the ability to understand what the difference is between LinkedIn and YouTube Shorts, two unbelievably important platforms for all of you. YouTube Shorts, because it is feeding Gemini's LLM and will show up in AEO and GEO for every business unit here, and no one is lost on what the consumer behavior is going to be with agentic AI. And obviously you've got Copilot in your own thing, but Gemini will have plenty of market share, and they will wall garden it, meaning they will take their content from YouTube and Shorts as much as possible to sucker us all into making content there. The key is a views editor, because this is a human being that understands at all times what the algorithms are favoring. We call this internally PAC, platforms, algorithms, and culture. I'll give you LinkedIn. LinkedIn right now is favoring images over video by comparison to just 3 months ago. 6 months ago, you could put up a crappy video on LinkedIn and it would get views because they were favoring video because they wanted to stand it up and learn the data. And then over time, once the platforms are shifting to what they need to do, then the merit of the creative really takes over. But in moments, at all moments, there's opportunity to figure out, is it this long? Is it that long? Is it a carousel ad? If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I'm doing picture then video second often. I'm not doing that for fun.
I heard you guys. So I'm going to stop it right there. Like, subscribe. This is part 2. We're going to get part 3. Like, subscribe, share to your friends and family. Why? Just because I want to get this channel up to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in just a second in part 3.